Johnny Somali, can I go to jail for live streaming? Literally, what are you live streaming that you're worrying about going to jail? Hmm. Yeah, there are some examples like live streaming a very violent scene, like uh, harassing someone, but like injuring someone, or of course.
Let's dive right in. I've got a PowerPoint ready for you, as always. Today we're going to break down what's happening, why things are shifting, which includes some facts and a bit of speculation, and where the Johnny Somali case stands. So, here's the latest. Here's the official update. Johnny Somali, also known as Ramzi Khalid Ismail, has had his trial date moved. And let me be clear, this decision came from the judge, not from his defense counsel, not from Ramzi himself. This distinction matters a lot. In fact, sources confirm that Ramsey has both publicly and privately expressed that he believed he'd be leaving by the end of the year. He genuinely thought he'd show up to trial, pay a fine, and walk out free. But now, that is absolutely not happening. He's not going anywhere for a very, very long time. Let that sink in. A very, very long time. The original trial date was set for December 20th. That's no longer the case. If you are planning to camp out by the courthouse or catch a glimpse of the proceedings, there's no need now. The trial has officially been rescheduled. This is mostly good news. However, there's one aspect that's not so great, and we'll get into that. So, let's unpack everything happening today. Let's start with the key detail everyone's waiting for: the new trial date. Mark it down: March 7th, 2025. That's right. We're looking at a wait of nearly 4 months, 3 to 4 months to be exact. And yes, I know this date is going to be shared everywhere, and that's totally fine. I'm here to put it out there for everyone. Now, let's talk about the concept of a speedy trial, which you may know from the American legal system. In the US, there's a recognized right to have your case resolved within a reasonable time frame. But here's the thing, that's not how it works in Korea. There's no mechanism to push for an earlier trial date like you might expect elsewhere. This delay wasn't requested by Johnny's legal team, which is important. It came directly from the judge. Usually, defense lawyers might want a delay to buy time, but since this change was judge-initiated, there's no option to move the trial sooner. And here's the kicker: Johnny cannot leave Korea until the trial is resolved. Even if he shows up on March 7th and pleads guilty, the process doesn't end there. Sentencing would likely take until April. Now, consider this. He's stuck with at least 4 more months of living expenses, and he can't stream to make money. Why? He doesn't have a work visa. Streaming without proper authorization would be a serious violation. In his current situation, it's clear. He shouldn't and legally can't engage in any kind of work activity while waiting for his trial. He's facing other potential violations if he tries to make money in ways he shouldn't. Let's be real. He's stuck. No money, very few friends, and nothing else to fall back on. And here's the reality. After 4 months of being a freeloader, even those few friends he has are likely to lose patience. Think about it. Having someone crash on your couch for 1 month is manageable, but 4 months? That's a whole different story. People get tired of the bum routine real fast. Now, let's address some critical facts because there's bound to be a lot of misinformation swirling around. And trust me, I want to clear this up. There are plenty of other channels spreading false or even dangerous information, so be cautious about what you're consuming. People send me things all the time, claims supposedly made by Johnny or Gina, and they're often based on recycled clips from old videos. These aren't new statements, but some are treating them like they are. I want to be transparent with you. Yes, I do occasionally review old videos, but I always make it clear when I do. I'll tell you, it's for legal analysis to evaluate whether potential crimes were committed. That's the purpose. It's not about spreading misinformation or creating unnecessary drama. So be mindful of the sources you trust and verify what's actually current versus what's being recycled. People keep sending me clips saying, "Look, Gino's turning on Johnny." But let me be clear, most of these are from videos posted months ago, 4 months, 6 months, even a year ago. Be cautious with this kind of recycled content. It's important to separate outdated material from the current facts. Now, here's where things stand. The charges against Johnny right now, for now, are obstruction of business and a violation of the Minor Crimes Act. That's it. Nothing else is part of the trial yet. Let me emphasize, for now. The court, the courtroom, the judge, and the prosecutor are all the same for now. However, that might change soon. Here's an interesting detail. The courtroom he's assigned to isn't very large. If more people attend the trial than expected, they might have to move it to a bigger room. But as of now, nothing's been relocated. Johnny remains under the jurisdiction of the Western District as we discussed previously. Same court, same prosecutor, same judge. For now. But here's the twist. Changes are coming. Yes, the prosecutor and judge will change. Oh yes, they will. This is something we'll need to keep a close eye on. Now, let's dive into why the judge made this decision to delay the trial. Remember, this wasn't Ramsey's choice, nor was it requested by the prosecutor. This decision came straight from the judge, who has access to a lot of information that isn't public yet. That's the real question. What led the judge to take this step? Let me start by saying that what follows is a hypothesis, but one grounded in solid reasoning and informed by conversations with people familiar with the system. These are educated guesses, not random speculation. So why might the judge have decided to move the trial date? Here's what I suspect. The case may have moved through the criminal process too quickly. It seems like it jumped from stage 1 to stage 4 at lightning speed, bypassing the typical timeline. Normally, stages 2 and 3 take about 2 to 4 months each. In total, this process would usually take 6 to 8 months. But in Johnny's case, the police investigation and the prosecutor's decision to set this for trial happened in under a month. That's extremely fast. And now it appears they're hitting the brakes and adjusting to a more standard timeline. A trial in March following an incident in November is much closer to the typical pace of a Korean investigation. 4 to 5 months of investigation before trial is far more normal than just 1 or 2 months. This rapid pace raises questions. Perhaps as things sped forward, new details or complications emerged, details that might not have been fully considered during the initial rush. It's intriguing to think about what could have prompted such a sudden shift from an unusually fast timeline to one that now looks more routine. Let's break this down. What might they have realized? One possibility is evidentiary issues. Here's a theory, and again, these are all just theories, but they're informed by discussions with Korean lawyers and people familiar with the Korean legal system. Theory number 1, the judge might be aware of potential issues with the evidence, witnesses, or the investigation itself. This could mean they're hoping for more witnesses to come forward, gathering additional evidence, or conducting a more thorough investigation. Typically, this process takes months, but it seems to have been rushed in this case to meet the original December 20th trial date. By moving the trial to March 7th, they've essentially returned to a normal timeline. Now, let's look at both sides of this theory. On the one hand, pushing the trial to March could allow time for gathering stronger evidence or additional witness testimonies. That makes sense. However, the counterpoint is that the charges against him, obstruction of business and the Minor Crimes Act violation, are already backed by solid evidence. The video footage alone is damning. With clear evidence like that, they don't necessarily need an extended timeline to build their case. In fact, just showing the video could be enough to secure a conviction. So while this theory is plausible, it's not entirely bulletproof. The existing evidence could already be sufficient to proceed without further delay. Let's move on to the next possibility. This next theory is the one many of you are probably thinking about, adding charges. By delaying the trial, there's more time to investigate and potentially add additional charges to the case. The judge might already be aware of other complaints or crimes linked to Johnny Somali, and moving the trial to March 2025 gives prosecutors plenty of time to explore these possibilities. We know there are multiple complaints against him, including both victim reports and third-party accounts. This distinction is important. When a victim reports a crime, it's taken very seriously by the authorities. But when a third party reports a crime, it's not given the same weight unless there's a significant number of similar complaints. That could very well apply here, depending on how many third party reports have been filed. Now, the counterpoint to this theory lies in jurisdiction. Many of the incidents involving Johnny occurred outside the Western District, which is where this case is currently being handled. For example, why would the Western District Court concern itself with incidents that happen in Jamshil, which falls under the Eastern District's jurisdiction? Take the Lot World incident, for instance, or some of the altercations with Korean YouTubers. Most of these events occurred in the Eastern District, not the Western District. This raises a key question. While adding charges is possible, would they actually transfer or consolidate jurisdiction across districts? That complicates things, and the Western District judge might not see it as their responsibility to address incidents that occurred elsewhere. So, why would the Western District delay the trial just to add charges that might fall under the Eastern District's jurisdiction? One possibility ties to what I'll call the pizza incident. Even though this incident occurred on a different night, it falls squarely within the jurisdiction of the Western District Court because it happened in Hongdae. If two separate incidents occurred in Hongdae, even on different nights, which they did, the court could combine those charges into one case. It's fully within their authority. To recap, Theory 1 was about evidence, Theory 2 is about adding charges, and now we move on to Theory 3, which is judge rotation. This is a significant point and something I only recently learned from people deeply familiar with the Korean legal system. In Korea, judges and prosecutors don't remain in their positions indefinitely. They're rotated regularly. So here's the issue. If the trial had started in December as originally planned, there's a high chance a new judge might step in midway through the case. Imagine this. Charges are filed, the trial begins, and then suddenly, in the middle of the proceedings, a new judge has to take over. That creates complications. By delaying the trial to March, the incoming judge for 2025 can handle the case from start to finish. This ensures consistency and allows the judge to manage the entire process without inheriting it halfway through. That kind of continuity can be a good thing for all parties involved. To clarify, this system is specific to South Korea. This isn't Judge Judy or some reality TV courtroom drama. It's about making sure cases are handled as efficiently and cohesively as possible under their legal system. Here's a wild theory. The judge might just want out of this case entirely. Think about it. This case is a mess. The judge could be looking at it and thinking, you know what? Forget this. I'm out. Could that be why the trial was bumped? It's not impossible. And honestly, ask yourself, would you want to be the judge handling the Johnny Somali case? Exactly. Now, to be fair, I can't read the judge's mind. This theory assumes a lot about their state of mind, which I can't know. But let's be real. Kicking the can down the road isn't exactly a new concept. It happens all the time in many situations. Now, let's shift to my prediction. I see this delay as a positive development, and here's why. First, it gives prosecutors more time to investigate additional potential crimes. There's been speculation about other offenses Johnny may have committed, and this extended timeline allows those to be properly looked into. Second, it gives victims more time to come forward. As I've said before, victim statements carry far more weight than third-party reports. If victims feel encouraged to step up, it could significantly impact the case. Third, the delay keeps Johnny in a holding pattern, likely in custody, until mid to late 2025. He's stuck. He can't leave, can't make his usual content, and can't work without drawing attention. Everyone knows who he is, and if he tries to act out, people will be watching closely. He's in a position where he's unable to do much of anything, and that's not a bad place for him to be right now. So it's essentially like prison already. Think about it. If he ends up getting sentenced to a year in actual prison, that's entirely possible. And by the time the trial concludes, he'll have already been stuck in Korea for nearly a year, just waiting for it to end. In effect, that's like serving 2 years. He's already losing time, and then you throw him into prison on top of that. It's like doubling the sentence before he's even officially locked up. After that, it's off to the cabbages. Now, let's continue with my prediction. Remember, he's responsible for all his own expenses. He can't work, and even just buying food costs thousands. That financial burden alone is significant. But here's the one downside, and you know me, I always try to stay objective. Over time, public interest in the case will naturally decline. YouTubers, myself included, won't be covering this daily for 4 months straight. I'll move on to other topics too. Don't get me wrong, when we get closer to March, I'll ramp things back up. I'll keep providing updates as they happen, but they might only come once a week or even every other week, depending on how much news there is. And one thing I guarantee, though, is that there will be updates. Maybe not every single day, but the case isn't going to disappear. That said, with less frequent coverage, public pressure might ease a bit. If the trial had stayed on December 20th, the case would have stayed front and center in people's minds. By March, it might take a back seat. From a legal and procedural standpoint, though, this delay is overwhelmingly a good thing. The system is moving forward in a way that allows for thorough preparation, and that's what ultimately matters.